Going live. All right, we are live. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I know a lot of you are stuck at home under self-isolation. It's a bit tough because a lot of things you're used to is no longer available because you have to stay inside the house. But either way, I just wanted to say thank you, all of you, for being here in here. Is this live stream working? It looks like it's buffering. Do we have a chat going on here? There we go. What's up, guys? Everyone's coming in the stream? Beautiful. Looking good. All right, so today's topic is going to focus off starting on a brand new laptop from Gigabyte. It's the Gigabyte Arrow 15. It's the 2020 model. I was going to do a separate video on this, but I thought, you know what? I might as well throw it in the live stream because not a lot has changed from a design standpoint. Like, it's pretty much the same laptop in terms of its chassis, its look, its everything. So I figured I would start it off, just give it a quick rundown, answer some of your questions on it, and then talk about some of the other laptops that I have here, and then go over Intel versus AMD. This is a super hot topic because AMD has some pretty crazy mobile processors, and a lot of you might be a little confused. I see a lot of fanboying going on, which is always a dangerous thing because not only does it spread toxicity, it also causes you to get too attached to one company, and then when the other company does something better, you kind of lose sight of things. So anyways, we'll talk about that later. But in the meantime, what's up, everybody from the Discord server? Make sure to follow me on Twitch as well. I started live streaming again, gaming, so that's a lot of fun. I'll be doing that every night, sometimes on the weekends, so join for that. All right, Gigabyte Aero 15. This is the OLED model. This is the 2020 model. It is still the exact same design as the previous generation. You get this beautiful metal chassis. The Aero line has been known for creators. So if you're a content creator, you're gravitating towards the Aero. If you're a gamer, you're going to gravitate towards the Oris lineup, which is their gaming lineup. Now, the beauty about this laptop is its size. Like, this laptop is under 5 pounds, making it a powerful option for content creators that travel a lot. And they've done this by making it fairly thin. Like, you still get all the similar ports to the previous model, which is a full-size HDMI mini display port, which a lot of other laptop manufacturers took away, USB 3.0, your audio jack, and then you get a full-size RJ45. On the other side, you have your barrel connector. You have a full-size SD card slot. Now, this is UHS 2. Not 3. Not a lot of other vendors offer UHS 3 because it costs a little bit more money. In fact, Razer, and their new advanced model, is one of the only companies that offer a UHS 3 SD card slot. So if that's important to you, you can get it there. Now, you do have a Thunderbolt 3 port. I'm not sure if it can charge the laptop as well. I'll have to look into that. And then, of course, you have 2 more USB ports. Now, the beauty about this is it's very clean. Like, you take this out, you're going to find a girlfriend. Like, they're just going to see this and they'll be like, wow, dude, this is gorgeous. There's nothing crazy about it. It looks clean, and that's what you want. Keyboard is still the same. Like, this is still the crazy, very well-made keyboard. Like, I like the way it feels. It's very tactile. You do have that per key RGB lighting if you're a creator and love that. You do have the full-size numeric keypad. The only thing I don't like about it is just it feels very cramped. And I talked about this with a lot of people, and some people feel like, you know what, I'd rather the keyboard be cramped as long as it includes the numeric keypad, because I would rather have the numeric keypad. Quite honestly, I personally never use one, but there's a lot of people that do. Unfortunately, the webcam is an issue. This is a really, 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 really terrible webcam because of its positioning. And as you can see here, it's placed just below the display. So this is going to be a nose cam, but at least it has a little switch if you want to include privacy functions. Touchpad is good, no complaints. I mean, it's a pretty good touchpad. This is not a touchpad you want to take home to your mother, but it has a fingerprint scanner over here to quickly log you in using Windows Hello. The box needs to say that, ha ha ha, girlfriend included. Yes, it does. Now, this does come with the brand new Intel 10th gen processors. There's two versions of the i7 processor this year. You have an i7 with 6 cores with higher clock speeds than the 9th gen processors. And there's also another i7 with 8 cores. Same clock speeds with a lower base, but same max frequency, but you get 2 extra cores. Now, I don't recommend anybody buying the 8-core part unless you're doing something that requires more cores. So video editors, maybe you're doing 3D design work, maybe you're running 1,000 things at the same time and streaming on Twitch. Then you probably want to go with the 8-core. But I think for most, the 6-core is where you want to be. Now, I can't talk about performance. I am still under embargo for performance on Intel processors and, of course, NVIDIA. Those benchmarks will come out April 15th. And this will go for any laptop that I talk about today. Heat management, it's very similar to the previous model. So when this thing's under load, it's going to kind of maintain clock speeds of around 3 gigahertz. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's going to be tough to take advantage of these super high clock speeds. I mean, at the end of the day, these laptops still get hot. And if you want those consistent boost speeds, it's just tough to stay up there. Like, you need those super thick laptops that are insanely cooled in order to take advantage of crazy boost speeds. The one thing I can say, though, is that Intel's doing whatever it takes right now to stay, I don't know, ahead of AMD. But it's really tough because AMD is bringing the heat. Well, maybe not literally bringing the heat, but they're bringing the heat in terms of price, performance, and cooling. Like, their CPUs just run, based on what I've seen, they run slightly cooler than Intel's 14 nanometer architecture. Can you please show us the MSI GS66? I will show it to you in a second. Let me just finish this up. Now, besides that, the 8-core 10th gen Intel processors inside of this. This one also has the brand new RTX Super card, the 2070 Super Max Q. You can spec this with either an RTX, you can spec this anywhere from a GTX 1660 Ti all the way up to an RTX 2080 Super Max Q. Now, what is performance going to be like with Super Max Q cards? I can't show you numbers, but I can give you an idea. Basically, an RTX 2070 Super Max Q will be as fast as an RTX 2080 Max Q from last year. And the RTX 2080 Max Q will be obviously on a whole different level. I don't have the RTX 2080 Super Max Q to benchmark, so I won't be able to tell you how that pans out when those benchmarks do come out. But from what I've seen so far, the marketing materials that NVIDIA has is basically one up from last year if you get a super card. Bro, love your review. Bro, and I love you. Okay, what else do you guys need to know? Do you guys want me to go inside the laptop? Do you guys want me to open this up? Just to give you an idea of what's inside of here? Is that a yes? Actually, let's do it. Let's open it up, quickly go through the internals. I have a screwdriver this time. I didn't lose it. It's in here, I hope. Crossing fingers. It is. We're going to open it up and take a look. Actually, you know what? Let's not open it up. We'll do it. We'll wait for the full review to open it up. But I will tell you a couple of things about the display. So this one right here is a 4K OLED display. It's 60 hertz, as it should be, considering this is a content creation laptop. There is a lot of screen glare, as it's typical, because this is a glass panel. So if you guys look at, I don't know, so you can see the reflection of the camera right there. You're going to get a lot of screen glare when things are tilted, or if light's coming into the bedroom. Why am I assuming you're working in your bedroom? When light is coming into whatever room you're working in, maybe I got a little too personal there, but you're going to see the reflection off the screen. Now, the problem with OLED displays on laptops is PWM flicker. So if that is something you're concerned about, you are going to get it on any laptop. Oh shit, I can't show that. Any laptop that has a OLED display. Wow, this is very awkward. This is super duper awkward. Because I've been logging in and out of other computers, I have the MSI GS66 background on this one. Let's just quickly change that for a second. Where are you? Where are you? Let's change the background. Okay, whatever, it doesn't matter. We're rocking MSI wallpapers for now, okay? So this screen does have PWM flicker. Let's see if I can, oh, look at all this news. I'm gonna show you the difference. PWM flicker, I'm gonna show you what it looks like. I don't know if you guys can see it on camera, but if you're very sensitive to that, you might have issues with it. So this is the way you do it. You go to this funky dory website. Let me turn down the brightness on this. So you go to this website, which will give you an idea. And down here, it kind of tells you what you're looking for. So on an OLED display, which would be right here, LED PWM, you kind of want smooth sailing. So originally, you should see like a smooth line go across the screen, which you kind of do right here. Which you kind of don't right here. Sorry, I don't know if you guys can see this on camera, but right now it's showing like 3 separate lines going across the screen, which means there is flicker present in the monitor. But if you increase the brightness, sorry, this is probably gonna get blown out on the display. If you increase the brightness, those 3 lines go away, and all of a sudden there's less flicker, and that line looks more smooth. So the idea is if you're buying an OLED display and you don't want your eyes to be affected by PWM flicker, what you want to do is you want to make sure your brightness doesn't drop down too low, because as soon as you do, that's when the flicker occurs, and it could lead to some strain for some people. Now, this display is absolutely beautiful. I just got to go my notes here, but as you can expect with a OLED display, you're going to get super duper color gamut, pretty good accuracy, and a really bright screen. Like for example, you're getting 100% sRGB, you're getting 96% Adobe RGB, and 99% P3 color gamut. Brightness is 400 nits, 403 to be specific, and then you have a delta average of 1.32. Now 1.32 is good, it's under 2, which is kind of where you want to be for a color accurate screen, but there are IPS panels on laptops that have better color accuracy than this. But if what is a gamut? If gamut is your strong point that you're looking for, then OLED is where you want to be. The other thing I noticed about this laptop is that the dry speeds are not as fast as something like the Razer Blade 15, the 2020 model, or the MSI GS66. It's getting about 2009 megabytes a second read and 1125 megabytes a second write. So not the fastest drive, but I expect for most people, it's obviously fast enough. Now, battery life, I haven't tested yet, nor can I really test until I do a full review, but it's using the same 94 watt-hour battery that they had in the previous model. So the previous model got a lot of great reviews on its battery life, and I'm expecting the same thing to hold true with the 2020 model. So that pretty much wraps up my first impression and hands-on for the Aero 15. It looks like it's going to be another solid decision if you're looking for a creation laptop. Gigabyte, did I say Acer? Jesus, I'm losing my mind. Gigabyte is also making sure that this is supported for NVIDIA RTX Studio drivers, as you can see right here, which means it's been optimized to work with 40 different creation type programs for the best experience. This does have Wi-Fi 6. This does have Thunderbolt 3, so down the road you can hook it up to an external GPU. And of course, it basically has all the things you'd expect on a notebook this size. Now, someone just asked in the comment section, what is the price of the Gigabyte Aero 15? And it retails anywhere, I believe, from $1899 all the way up to $4,000, depending on how you spec it. The $4,000 model, I imagine, is going to have the i9 10th gen processor paired with an RTX 2080 Super with like 64 gigabytes of RAM. Don't quote me on that, but that's the price range you should expect from a laptop like this. Okay, opening up questions for the Aero 15 before I bring in the other laptops. How light is it and how thick it is? Okay, to give you guys some context, I have the brand new MSI GS66 here. Okay. This will give you an idea of how thick they are. So the MSI GS66 is definitely a little bit thinner. This is slightly thicker. I don't have the exact numbers, so I'm just basically kind of giving you some context compared to another laptop. Now I'm going to bring in the Razer Blade 15 2020, and you can see the differences between all of them. It looks like it's a bit thicker, the Aero 15, followed by the Blade, or maybe the Blade's thicker, followed by the Blade, and then the thinnest is the MSI GS66. So the next person asks, how is the build quality? Coming from Bradley. Ooh, I just realized that logo glows. I'm glad they kept it. So the build quality is good. So like, to give you an example, I have 3 laptops here. I have the Razer, the Arrow, and the MSI GS66. And if I had to choose one for the best build quality, it would be these two. I would put the Arrow in second place, and I would put the MSI GS66 in last place for build quality. Not that this has poor build quality, like MSI has done a better job this year compared to its predecessors. Like the build quality is much better, but if I had to choose one for build quality, I think I'd rather have the Aero 15. To give you guys an example of flex, they're all pretty even. Actually, you know what? The Razer kind of has the most flex from the top. Not by much, but let's do a keyboard test. Okay. Keyboard flex test. Let's pull out the MSI. Okay, so for keyboard flex, Aero 15 flexes the most. But again, like when I talk about flexing, it's not bad. Like it's something you're not going to be annoyed with. So this probably flexes the most, followed by the GS66, and then in last place you get the least flex with the Razer Blade 15. Next question, does the GS66 have an optical keyboard? So this GS66 does not have an optical keyboard. This is not an optical one. It has very good travel distance. It's not as like thick as the old rubber keys. I don't have it here. The old rubber keys they used on their previous model. I actually prefer this much more than the previous one. Like this keyboard is very nice. Let me see if there's any battery left in this, but I'm gonna try to turn on to show you what the RGB looks like. Like this keyboard, just like the previous one, has per key RGB. Yeah, the battery's dead, so I can't show you the RGB lighting. But anyways, it's a good keyboard. Like they've improved it significantly. Obviously, it's in partnership with SteelSeries, so you're gonna get those SteelSeries drivers that you can use to basically customize all the keys. What else do you guys need to know? Is there Aero 15 screen wobbles a bit? You guys want to do a screen wobble test? Okay, let's do a screen wobble test. Okay, let's see if I can get this. So this is the flex on the MSI GS66. I'm gonna put this like right here. This is the flex on, yeah, okay, so far between these two laptops, okay. So there's a bit more of a wobble with the Aero 15 and a little bit more screen flex. Whereas this one feels a bit stiffer. There's like some hyper wobble when you first do it, but it like stiffens out a bit quicker than the Aero 15. Even if I just like bang the desk a little bit, look how much more this one shakes. I feel like this is the dumbest test in the world, but I know some of you actually appreciate this. So I'm gonna do it just for you. So I'm just gonna bang the desk a little bit, and you can see the Aero 15 definitely wobbles a bit more. And that's probably most likely to do with the fact that their screen hinges are slightly taller, giving you more space between the screen itself and the laptop, which obviously doesn't have the same sort of construction to make it tighter on the low end. Now I'm gonna bring the Razer Blade into this to see how that performs in terms of wobbleness. The wiggly wobble test. Okay. Okay, so here we go. I got the Razer. Let's do a screen test. Oh yeah, okay. Okay, this one's definitely the stiffest. When I do a little screen flex, actually they're pretty equal. The MSI and the Razer are pretty close. Maybe a slight advantage to the MSI GS66. Let's do a Matt Moniz monkey bang the desk test. Let's do a little. Yeah, look at that Aero 15 go. Yeah. So Razer Blade 15, definitely the stiffest display, with the Aero 15 as the one that has a bit more of a wobbly screen. Again, I don't know. It doesn't bother, as long as it's not wobbly to the point that it's going to annoy me when I'm typing on the keyboard. I think that's the big thing to take away. Like if you're typing on the keyboard and the screen's not wobbling, then you should be okay. So let's pretend I'm typing on this for a second. so you guys can see. Okay, let's wait for the screen to stop wobbling here. All right, here we go. I mean, there's like a bit of wobble. No, there's no wobble. It's fine. It's solid. I think that's what matters. If you type on it, it doesn't wobble, you should be good to go. But if having the tightest hinges possible, Razer Blade 15 followed by the MSI GS66. All right, next question, people. Hey, Matthew, are you going to give this away? I will give it away. If you buy one, send it to me, and then I'll give it away. Are you going to give a... Wow, they look so similar. Oh. So there are Razer Blade... I think there's Razer Blade. Yes, there are Razer Blade laptops, I believe. I'm not 100% sure. I believe that are coming with optical switches sometime in the future. I don't have any like dates or exact prices or anything like that, but they will be coming. I'll be honest with you. The big thing I love about the 2020 Razer Blade 15 is the fixed keyboard layout. A lot of people had issues with it, including myself. It's not my favorite keyboard. It still isn't my favorite keyboard, to be quite honest. It's a beautiful looking keyboard, very MacBook-like. They did fix the shift key. It's no longer small, like you do have a bigger shift key. Arrow keys, they changed up a bit, so some people like it better, other people don't. Other people don't. But the function key I've heard from a couple of commenters is still in a poor position. Quite frankly, the function key is in a great spot for me. But the most important thing they fixed was the shift key. Now, the shift key on the previous Razer Blade 15 wasn't that big of a deal. The biggest deal was on the, what's it called? On the Razer Blade Stealth. The shift key, the right shift key was so small. It was just annoying to use. Which one is best, Razer or GS66? So I don't know. I have to test them out, do my full review, benchmark it. To be quite honest, I can't even test out this MSI GS66. There's no GPU in here. There's zero GPU in here. This is an engineering sample. It does have the 10-core 10th gen Intel processors, but there is no GPU in here. So I couldn't even tell you if this laptop is better than the other two. Obviously, the Arrow is going to be the better one on this table because this is, better spec'd. Like this has the RTX 2070 Super, whereas the base model is only coming with an RTX 2060. RTX 2070. So this will obviously have better performance, but I need to compare apples to apples, not apples to oranges. So give me time, let more laptops come into the studio so I can put them through the paces and I'll have a better idea for you. More questions before I switch this to a Intel versus AMD conversation. So one person asked, can the base model Razer Blade 15 be charged using USB Type-C? The answer is no, it cannot. If you want to charge the Razer Blade 15 using USB Type-C, you have to buy the advanced model. It's the only model between the 15-inch versions that can be charged using USB Type-C. Now, one thing to note, it can only charge up to 65 watts. So even if you have a 100-watt USB Type-C power brick, it's still only going to charge it at 65 watts. That also means you can't game on it. Well, I mean, you could game on it, but the performance is going to drop and you're going to pretty much run out of battery pretty quickly. It's only good for situations where you're traveling. Let's say you forgot the main brick at home. You can still hook it up to USB Type-C. It'll charge slower, but at least you get to use it later. So that's the advantage of having USB Type-C on a thicker H-series laptop. So one person asks, release date for these laptops. I have no idea. I mean, things are crazy right now with what's going around the world. All these companies are probably sitting and wondering when the possible best time would be to release these products due to supply constraints, manufacturing issues, and most importantly, people just don't have the money. People just don't have the money right now. A lot of people are losing their jobs. A lot of people are saving just in case. It's a really crazy time. However, I did see a report that in the United States, the two things that have actually increased in purchasing have been food, which is obvious, and electronics. Everything else is in the negative, which I find really strange. Or do I find really strange? Because everyone's staying home, so they're obviously buying computers, laptops, tablets to keep entertained. All right, next question. So one person asks, hey Matt, is this the 5 gigahertz CPU model? All of these laptops you see on the table are using the Intel 10th gen CPUs, which all turbo boost up to 5 gigahertz. So for example, I just spit all over the laptop. For example, this Razer Blade Razer Blade 15 base model, the 2020 version, is 6 cores. This is the i7-10750H. The base clock is, sorry, I'm reading on the screen over here. I forgot the exact number. But the base clock is I said like I was Irish. The base clock is 3.6 gigahertz with a turbo boost of 5. Now, if you want to go even faster, you go up to the next version of the i7, which is the i7 850. Oh, sorry, I made a mistake. Yeah, sorry, this is the 7.5. Let me check. Hold on a second. I'm pretty sure it's the 750. 1 second. So one person wants a speaker demo and some HDR footage demo on the OLED. Okay, I can do that after that. Okay, I'll do a speaker test between some of these laptops. I'm not going to do a speaker test with the MSI GS66. I've already done it in my video when I did my first impressions. And to be quite honest, they're not that great, even though they place the speakers on top of the deck. I am curious to see if these speakers in the Razer Blade have improved, because I didn't cover it in my initial hands-on compared to the Aero 15. So let's just load this up, and I'll tell you exactly what we're looking at over here. All right, so we're inside. I don't know if you guys can see this. Okay, you guys can kind of see that. All right. You know what? Let's see here. So this model I have here. Come on. So this model is the 750. So there's 3 i7 processors. 2 of them are 6-core. 1 of them is 8-core. This is the lower clocked 6-core version. So this has a higher base clock speed than the i7 and the i9, but it has a lower boost clock speed. So base clock is 3.6 with a boost of 5 gigahertz. If you do buy the advanced model, you can score yourself an 8-core part, which has a base clock of 2.3 gigahertz, but a boost clock of 5.1. You get 8 cores instead of 6. Now, there is another 6-core part that's in the middle. It has slightly lower base clock speeds, but it runs 100 megahertz faster than the 6-core part that's in the Blade 15 right now. Okay, so you guys want a sound test? I'm going to give you guys a sound test. Let me load up the sound on both of these just so I have it ready so there's no issues. So let's do a little SoundCloud. Actually, I can't do SoundCloud because I'll probably get like pinged for not having royalty-free music. What's the difference between Max Q and Super Max Q? So nothing in terms, the Max Q is a Max Q. Like it's just a more efficient, lower TDP mobile part for laptops. The difference is basically not Super and Super. Super is just the new naming scheme for their new GPUs or newer GPUs that are in the 10 or newer laptops that are coming out right now. Same sort of idea as they did on the desktop, how they had like an RTX 2080 and then they came out with an RTX 2080 Super. The reason why NVIDIA is doing this is because we're still waiting for AMD to release all of their new GPUs. So NVIDIA's like, why should we release ours if right now we're still in the lead of the fastest GPUs in the world? Okay, let's see if this song's good. Oh, it's terrible. Okay, so this is the Razer Blade 15. Actually, you know what? Let me pause it. Get this one loaded up first so we can kind of do it at the same time. Tom Tech is in the chat. What's going on, buddy? He is alive. I'm glad to see you in here. Don't worry. So one person says Ryzen 4000. We're going to be talking about Ryzen 4000 as soon as I get through all of your questions about these laptops. So if you can hold on like another 10 minutes, we are going to talk about Ryzen 4000 versus Intel 10th gen processors. Now, a lot of people are kind of upset that they're not let's just wait. Let's just hold off for a couple of minutes on the Ryzen stuff. Let me get through this first, and then we can talk about the Ryzen goodness. Okay, we're loading up Epidemic Sound for a little. So for those of you just tuning in right now, we're discussing 3 laptops, the MSI GS66 versus the Razer Blade 15 and the Gigabyte Aero 15 OLED. All different laptops, all different price points. But just answering your questions, doing a few little comparisons. I can't show benchmarks, obviously, because we're still under embargo. That will come out around April 15th. You'll get a better idea of how these laptops perform. I haven't used any of AMD's laptops yet, so I don't know what they're going to be like. But based on the stuff I've been seeing, Intel looks to be having a very tough time. AMD's bringing their A game in some areas. In other areas, Intel is still king, and I'll get to that shortly. All right, let's play the laptop speakers. So here we go. This is the Razer Blade 15 with 2 front-firing speakers. Actually, no, I'm going to leave it on the desk because it won't be fair since the Arrow has downward-facing speakers, and they tend to sound better when they're bouncing off something. So here we go. Okay, that is the Razer Blade 15, and now we're doing the Arrow 15. Here we go. What song was that? The Drama. Okay, so Arrow 15 sounds better, gets louder. It's just a louder laptop. I do think the Blade 15 sounds cleaner, especially at the high end, but the Arrow 15 has a slightly fuller sound spectrum compared to the Blade 15, even though its speakers are on the bottom of the laptop. Those 2 downward firing speakers sound better than the Blade 15. So yeah, I hope that answers your questions. And to be quite honest, the difference is not like massive to the point where you're like, oh my God, I really want the speakers on the Arrow 15 over that one. But they do have slightly sounding better speakers. So cleaner on the Blade 15, louder but fuller on the Arrow 15. All right, any more questions before I wrap this up and we move into part 2 of the conversation, which is AMD versus Intel? Hey Matt, when will the new Blade arrive? I'm not sure, hopefully soon. Okay, so any like troubleshooting questions, you can basically wait for the Discord server, hop on there. The keyboard on the Arrow is, so one person says he doesn't like the keyboard. Yeah, the keyboard is not the greatest in terms of its look. It's kind of, it feels like they crammed it in here. I would have loved some space. Honestly, this is for me personally. I don't use the numpad. Get rid of it, space out the keys, make a bigger trackpad, giving you more space to move your hands around, sort of like what Razer's doing with their trackpad. And I just think it would be a better product, you know? Like if you want a numpad, like go buy a 17-inch laptop or, yeah, just on the creator laptop, I just don't think you need one. Like no creator is buying this to crunch Excel numbers. Like most people are buying this to do something that requires like performance to push through whatever they're doing. Like I said, video, 3D work, virtual effects, I don't know, making 3D models of birds, whatever it is. You don't really need a numpad. Okay. MSI Speakers. The laptop's dead. I forgot to charge it, but they're not good. They're not great. They're worse than these two, even though they're now on the deck of the actual laptop. Okay. Are you guys, any more questions before I wrap this up and start talking about Intel versus AMD? So one person asks, which one would you buy for yourself if you had one? So honestly, based on these 3 laptops on the table, I'd personally would rather have, okay. Let's break it down why I would choose one of these over the other. You have to remember something. There's other differences between all 3 of these laptops. And those are the displays. Like, you know, 2 of these laptops are straight up gaming laptops where the Arrow 15 kind of fills the niche for content creators. Like this MSI GS66 has a 300 hertz display. And we should talk about that because manufacturers in 2020 are pushing 300 hertz displays like nobody's business. And it's great that we're pushing technology forward. 300 hertz is a beautiful thing to look at, but the cost, the opportunity difference between the 240 and the 300 is so minor that most people shouldn't even care about it. On top of that, the GPUs inside of here are not powerful enough to push the frames we require to get 300 hertz. So my suggestion is to you is not to focus too much on the refresh rate. Like, if you're only buying 144 right now, you're fine. Like 144 hertz for the GPUs that they're putting inside of here is a great place to be. If you have to go up higher because you're playing like an older title and you don't mind like completely dropping the settings on it, then you can go for 240. But 300 right now, today in 2020 is a bit overkill. Now, with that being said, all three of these laptops have different refresh rates. The Blade base model is using a 144 hertz refresh rate. However, you can get it with 300 if you move up to the advanced model. The MSI GS66 is using a 300 hertz display, but of course you can buy it with other refresh rates. And the Aero 15, which is here on the right, looking pretty tight, is a 60 hertz panel, and that's because it's using a 4K OLED display, which is aimed towards content creators. Now, if I had to choose one, I would still choose a higher refresh rate. I would choose something with 144 to 240 hertz if I was using it as a gaming laptop. As a content creation tool, it's a tough decision because like probably spending most of your time doing content creation, and then the odd time you're playing a game, you have to sacrifice the higher resolution for a higher refresh rate. So it makes me think, wouldn't it be nice if one of these manufacturers came out with a QHD display that has a high refresh rate? 144 hertz is perfect. QHD, still pixel dense enough to have that higher res display for more screen real estate to do like your other work, but yet still fast enough that you can use it to game on. That would be the sweet spot. And I clearly did not answer that person's question. So yeah, so ideally, if this was the advanced model of the Razer Blade, that would be my first choice. But because this is the base model, it's missing a few things that I want. The MSI GS66, I would probably not pick right now, just because I don't have an idea of how it performs overall, since this model doesn't have a GPU inside. That will come soon. I'd probably pick the Aero 15, like between all three of these laptops on the table, just because it's the most complete product out of all three of here. It's not an engineering sample. It has an RTX 2070 Super. It has a beautiful 4K display that I can work with. And if I really need to play games in 60 hertz, I can go ahead and do that. All right. Hope that answers your question. Yeah, so MSI, one quick little tidbit about the MSI GS66 is that they've really brought their A game this year to make it a better laptop. Like, I wish I had the previous generation beside it, but the build quality is better. Like, they've improved it. It feels a lot more solid compared to the previous one. Like, you can tell in some areas it still feels a bit cheap, especially around like the display area, but overall it feels like a much better built laptop than they did before. And like, you know what? They're packing 99 watt hours in here, so that's the legal limit to bring on a plane. I'm expecting this to have the best battery life out of all three of these laptops. They're trying to make better sound, but again, this is the engineering sample and the sound is not that great. Maybe it's going to be significantly better on their retail units. But yeah, they're really bringing their A game. Now, what's going to determine their success compared to these other two products on the table is basically how they price it. Like, are they going to price it in line with the Razer Blade and the Aero 15? My guess is they're going to come in a little bit lower. And if they come in a bit lower, but still manage to offer a complete package, I might actually recommend it to a lot of people. So we'll see what happens there. Now, the advanced model of the Razer Blade does offer a few more features than the base model, and one negative feature. For example, the RJ45 port on the base model is not present on the advanced model. The advanced model also has two USB Type-C ports, but one of those USB Type-C ports actually allows you to charge the laptop, which you can't do on the base model. If you want Windows Hello to quickly log you into the laptop, you can't do that on the base model. You have to upgrade to the advanced model. The other negative, though, is battery size. The base model only has a 65 watt-hour battery, which is not that great. Like, your battery life is not going to last that long. But the upside is you get an extra storage drive. So 2 drives instead of 1, but with a smaller battery. The advanced model removes that extra storage drive, but you get an 80 watt-hour battery, which will give you better battery life. Now, this model only comes with 6 cores. If you want 8 cores, the more powerful, faster i7, you got to move up to the advanced model. And it's obviously going to be more expensive. You can still get the 4K OLED display. Actually, that's another difference. You can get the base model with a 4K OLED display, which is not touch. But if you want a touch version of that, you got to move up to the advanced model. All right, some questions. Razer's logo is never going to change, my dude. Probably not. I mean, it's not a bad logo. It's very like gamer vibe, but it is what it is. Matt, can we see the PC from... So one person, Ozerif, can we see the PC from last stream? I'm actually making a video on it. It's all cleaned up. It's looking beautiful. It's a great PC. It's not like an eye catcher, but I'll show that to you in another video. One person... So one person asks GS66 advantage over GS75. So better build quality, better speaker placement, bigger battery, faster refresh display, which is not that big of a deal, and just a better built laptop. Should I buy the Surface laptop? Okay, we'll take like general questions at the end of the video, but for now, let's focus on these laptops. So one person asks, okay, so that's pretty much it for these laptops. Now I want to talk about AMD versus Intel because this is super duper interesting and there's a lot going on. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. A lot of people are just dropping crazy comments on my videos about how, oh, why does this laptop not have AMD? It should have AMD. No AMD, no buy. And you can't think like that because Intel still wants to sell you a product. So they're dropping prices in the mid-range market, but they're still offering faster single-core clock speeds. So this year was interesting because AMD came out with a 8-core... Where's my thing? Who stole my thing? This year was interesting because AMD came out with an 8-core... Wow, did I just lose the little dongle? 1 second, guys. Okay, I don't know where the dongle is. That's not good. So this year AMD came out with an 8-core part. You can get it in different variations. What did I do with that dongle? This is like the screwdriver all over again. I'm losing everything. This is, I gotta be more organized. Okay, I can't find the dongle. This is like the story of my life. I had a USB Type-C dongle here. Oh, you know where it might be? Over here. I know where it is. I know where it is, people. There it is. Okay. So AMD came out with 8-core processors, and it's a 7-nanometer architecture. This architecture is based on the 3000 series desktop chips that you guys have seen in their desktop counterparts. The desktop market, AMD's killing the game. Same thing is going to start happening with the laptop market. But here's the thing. The laptop market is different because a lot of these vendors have really tight relationships with Intel. So all these expensive high-end gaming laptops are still going to be using Intel chips. Now, some companies don't care, like Asus, for example. They're still going to be rocking AMD processors because they want to be able to offer the best, they want to be able to offer you the best performance they want to basically sell you something, right? And if they can do that with cheaper processors that are faster than the Intel counterparts, then they're going to do it. So to give you guys an example, we have Intel processors right here, okay? This is what I was talking about before. You're still going to get your i5 processors on the low end. These are still going to be 4 cores, 8 threads, faster max turbos than the previous generation. And if you're wondering, are the new 10th gen i5 processors going to be much better than last year? The short answer is no. Like, if you have a laptop from last year, you're not going to feel a need to upgrade, because let's face it, a lot of these times those max turbo speeds are going to be very hard to sustain. Then you move up to the i7 counterparts, and that's where things get a little bit confusing, because you have 3 versions of the i7. You have 2 6-core and 1 8-core. The lowest end 6-core has a faster base clock than the 6-core above it, but has a slower max turbo. Quite personally, I would probably still rather have the 10750 SKU because of the lower base clock. Because you have to understand, a lot of these laptops, when they're under like full, like when they're throttling hard from being like maxed out, their base clock speeds are going to be low. So that's just me personally. Then you move up to the i7, which is an 8-core part, 2.3 gigahertz base, max 5.1, which is pretty much just a i9 from last year's version. So if you had the 9th gen i9, that's what the new i7 is at the end of the day. And then you have the i9 version, which is an unclocked processor. This has a higher max turbo, but a very low clock speed. Again, it's just an i9 from last year, but they're just pushing that 14 nanometer architecture to make it faster. So that's what Intel is offering this year for their processors. Then you take a look at Ryzen, and they have 3 different SKUs, or 4 different SKUs for the H series. 3 of them are 8 cores, and 1 of them are 6 cores. Yes, they have a significantly lower max turbo speed, but their base clocks are on par, or if not better, than most of Intel's. On top of that, these laptops run at a lower TDP, or can run at a lower TDP, and still offer you very similar performance. So not only is AMD offering you a cooler chip, they're offering you more sustained performance for a lower price point. That's why these AMD laptops are becoming so attractive. You're getting a product that's cheaper, but also can run cooler, but giving you better performance in a lot of these situations. Now, these are not my graphs. These are from PC World. I'll place the link to their website in the description down below after this video, but I want to make sure I credit them. They've done a bunch of tests already. And as you can see here, the green line going across the screen, that's the Zephyrus G14. This is the 4900HS. The S stands for a lower powered version of the 4900H, okay? Or that stands for slim. Like, it's meant to go in slimmer laptops. And look, it's just crushing the competition in multi-threaded performance. It's beating out an i9 9980 HK from last year. That's the Acer Predator Helios 700. This is a thick boy. Like, this laptop is super thick. And the fact that it's beating it out is just bonkers. Like, it's impressive. The only computer they have here listed that's actually beating it is a desktop computer, not by much, and that's a 9900K. That's impressive. Like, I can't explain to you how impressive that is. And if you take a look again at another multi-threaded performance benchmark, R20 instead of R15, it's the same story. It beats out every single laptop they compare it to significantly, except for the desktop 9900K. Now, single-threaded performance is still the one area that Intel excels in. Like, they're marketing their single-threaded performance the most. But the problem is like I mentioned in the beginning or earlier in this video, it's tough to make those It's tough to have those single-threaded performance benchmarks sustain higher clock speeds for a long period of time. It's just not possible with the cooling that's required in these laptops. Sure, on the desktop, it's a different story. Like, if you're buying a gaming laptop, money is no object, you're probably still going to want to go with Intel because you'll get 2 to 5 frames more per second because of the higher clock speeds. But in the laptop territory, it's the opposite. These things are space heaters. They get hot. And cooling is not as advanced as it is on the desktop, or not as easy to do as the desktop. So your single-threaded performance is not going to be as great. But in burst situations where you're running like one instance of Cinebench, yeah, Intel's going to win. But if you continuously do this over and over and over again, I'd imagine that AMD Ryzen chip is going to start looking a little bit more attractive. So yeah, there's been a lot of advancements here. So Okay, so that's the advantage of going with AMD for performance. They have these really great chips that perform well, stay relatively cooler than their Intel competition, and which is very attractive for a lot of people. Now, the one area that they do lose in is PCIe lanes. With AMD chips, their laptops will only come with 12 lanes, which means some stuff like your drive speeds, for example, will be slower than what you'd get on an Intel laptop because there's just less lanes to work with. You'll also have no ability to use Thunderbolt 3 with AMD laptops because there's no PCIe lanes to support it. And then, of course, they'd have to get permission from Intel and license the technology. So if you're buying a laptop to hook up to an external GPU, you're just not going to be able to do it with an AMD processor. I mean, even graphics-wise, like technically the Intel versions are doing better, but I mean, like for an RTX 2060, like it's still doing really well. Like there's no other RTX 2060s that are surpassing it in this graph. Like look at the Dell G7. It's all the way at the bottom and it's using 60 watts. Like that's just bonkers. Like I can't wait to see a laptop with a 4900H, not the S version, paired with a RTX 2070 Super. Like I can only imagine it being bonkers. So yeah, we've only seen what the HS can do. We haven't seen what the 4800H can do. I'm really curious to see what the regular 4900H can do because I feel like that's going to really be competitive with the i9 Intel processors that are coming out very soon. All right, questions. We've got 9 minutes left. I'm open to taking all of your questions. Here we go. Any question you want to ask me, let's do it. 9 minutes left in the stream. Which one is better, Razer or the Zephyrus Duo or the Acer Helios 500? So I haven't reviewed the Razer 2020 yet. I've only done a hands-on. Zephyrus Duo I don't have in the studio. Helios 500. I will say this, the Helios 500 is probably going to offer you more value for the money just because Acer usually gives you more bang for the buck, but the build quality will be a little bit lower compared to the other two. The Duo, in my opinion, as cool as it is, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of a gimmick having a second screen on the bottom. If you can find a use case for it and it fits into your workflow, that's fantastic. But pushing the keyboard down is not the best way to do things. And if you're typing on a lap, it's very awkward. So out of those few, I'd probably personally still go for the Razer Blade 15. Should I buy the Surface Laptop 3 in 2020? Yeah, why not? It's a great laptop. I'm using it right now. It's still using a 10th gen Intel processor. It's Ice Lake, and you're not going to see Tiger Lake for a while. So yeah, if you can get a great deal on it, which is actually cheaper than the Dell XPS 13, why not? It's one of my favorite laptops, definitely. Would you recommend the Razer Blade over the MSI? I think I already answered that. So the outcome is forget about domination of Intel this year. Yeah, I don't think, so that's another great question. One person is saying forget about Intel dominating this year. And that's not 100% true because we don't know what kind of deals these laptop manufacturers have with Intel. Like all of these high-end notebooks are still using Intel. The only other companies that are announcing Ryzen CPUs to go with it is Lenovo, Asus, and some stuff from Acer, but I believe most of their processors are on Ultrabooks and mid-range computers. The high-end market is still very tied to Intel, and there's only a few laptop manufacturers that have SKUs that support the new Ryzen. Now, obviously, this could change 4 to 5 months from now, but what we're seeing so far is still a very Intel-heavy market. So another thing about, so Tom says, when I'm upgrading, I'm going AMD. No question about it. Now that's another thing you have to be careful of too. Fanboying is not good because even though AMD is coming out with the heat, there's still a price point at $999, which are going to offer you Intel 10th gen CPUs paired with an RTX 2060. That's exciting, okay? Because you're going to get the higher clock speeds of those Intel chips, which are 4 cores, don't produce as much heat as the i7s from Intel paired with an RTX 2060. So that segment of the market might be in favor of Intel because the i5s run a lot cooler than the i7s and they have a higher clock speed, which means you should get 2 to 8 frames per second more than you would with the AMD Ryzen chips that are coming out onto the market. So don't go all Intel yet. I think there's going to be a price range somewhere between mid-range and premium that AMD is really going to excel this year. And I think a lot of people are going to go for that because it's going to offer you premium performance for a lower price point than the Intel notebooks that are coming out. But if you're looking for gaming laptops around the $1,000 point, an RTX 2060 paired with an i5 10th gen processor is a very attractive price point. Okay, next question. So one person says, what about the Mag 15 Electronics? I haven't reviewed their stuff. I need to get my hands on one. A lot of you guys have been requesting it, so hopefully soon. Some reviews got the Tough A15. I haven't got it yet. I'm looking forward to getting it. I can't wait to test it. Whoa, Leon, thank you so much. That is more than $1 million in Canadian. That's about $10 million in Canadian. I can just retire today. So I am quitting. This is my last stream. I can now retire. Thank you, Leon. Which one is better, the Razer or the Zephyrus? Someone just asked me. Can someone found the master? I asked that question like 10 times and already answered it. G14 or 15-inch laptop for content creation. So the 14-inch display is definitely a little small. Like, this is from my own personal experience. I prefer a bigger display. One reason, like, I actually sometimes use a MacBook Pro 16-inch to edit my videos on when I'm traveling, just because I get that extra inch of screen real estate, even though it's still in a 15-inch form factor. And I find that to be, for me at least, the sweet spot. That 16:10 aspect ratio, giving you a slight more vertical space, for me is just better on the eyes when I'm editing on video. So for me personally, I would rather have a 15-inch laptop than a 14-inch. 17's nice if I'm never leaving the house, but I wouldn't want to travel with a 17-inch laptop to edit video. So 15, 16 is the sweet spot for me. Do you work out? You damn right I do, baby. Oh wait, you can't see my muscles. There we go. Yeah, I work out. I've been known to work out a little bit here and there. I haven't gone to the gym in a while. I've been doing a lot of home workouts now because, what's it called? Of isolation. But one thing it's taught me is how to work out at home. So I've been doing a lot of running and, of course, a lot of resistance training using workout bands. Next question. Any thoughts on the new MSI Creator 17? I'll have more thoughts once I get it in here. So one person asks, which I'm actually really excited about, is the upcoming Dell XPS 15. This is the year they're going to refine it. My gut feeling is they're going to make it look a lot like the Dell XPS 13. So if you love the way the Dell XPS 13 looks, that's how the Dell XPS 15 is going to look. Do not buy the Dell XPS 15 right now. Wait for the new one to come out. I'm not a fan of the Dell XPS 15 anymore. Too many overheating problems. They fixed it with some bias updates and fan controls, but still not one of the better laptops to buy. So definitely wait for the new Dell XPS 15. I hopefully, crossing fingers, if it's anything like the 13, it's going to be a beautiful thing. Do you future-proof your laptops with going Ryzen 4 or Intel 10th gen? See, I don't think... See, to be honest, whether you go with Ryzen or Intel, I don't think it matters for future-proofing. The beauty of Intel is you get other features that Ryzen doesn't have. So if your main goal is to game and edit video, you're still better off going with Intel because Adobe Premiere, if that's the suite you use, takes advantage of QuickSync. So QuickSync paired with the CPU will give you faster render times and certain accelerations in the NLE that you're using. But if you're very GPU focused, like in DaVinci Resolve, for example, then I don't think it matters if you go Ryzen or Intel. It just really comes down to the software you're using. Find out exactly how much stress the software is using on the parts that your computer comes with. Because like when Microsoft released the Surface Laptop 3 15-inch version, it had Vega graphics. It had a pretty sweet CPU, but it was struggling on everything, even watching 4K video, because the software and optimizations weren't there. And I think that's what you're going to see a lot with AMD for the next year or so, is software issues on the laptop. These manufacturers have to optimize it, and Intel still leads in that category. For gaming, doesn't matter. AMD, if you can get a great deal on it, go with the Ryzen 4000. Okay, when is the new 14-inch MacBook Pro coming out? Will you prefer to these? Okay, so great question. I don't know when the 14-inch MacBook Pro is coming out. I'm hoping soon, just because Apple's replaced a lot of basically replaced all their other models with the better keyboards. I would hold off on buying the MacBook Pro 13. I don't think it's worth it right now. Like, just take it out of your mind. You're better off waiting, or if you desperately need to, just buy a MacBook Air. But the 13 is a no-buy for me right now. Wait for the 14 to get the fixed keyboard so you don't have any of those issues in the long run, even though Apple will fix it if there are. But why go through that headache if you don't have to? Is it true that the new XPS 13 has some heating performance problems? I have no idea why I gave you an English accent, but yes and no. It depends on what setting you run the laptop on. Like, if you're running on the ultra performance setting, it can overheat and get really hot. But it's weird. Like, you have to trick it. Like, there's sometimes I'll put on ultra performance and it gets really hot and it overheats. And then I'll take it off, put it back on optimize, and put it back up to ultra performance, and everything's fine. If you run it on all the other settings, the heat management is fantastic. There's no issues. But it does get hot on ultra performance. I will say this, though, about the Dell XPS 13. It's one of the faster ultrabooks I've used. Like, it beat out all the other ultrabooks that I've made comparison videos on in my tests. So it was so good that it was faster than a lot of the i7 comparisons that I put it up against. And I was using the i5 for the Dell XPS 13. And if you're planning on hooking it up to an external GPU, it's the best ultrabook I've used, besides like the Razer Blade Stealth that has no, dedicated GPU inside, that works very well hooking it up to an external GPU. Okay, I think this is it. OLED high refresh rate displays. It is possible. I just don't think we're there yet. I think they need to fix like the color accuracy issues at different brightnesses, and hopefully find a way to get rid of PWM flickering. A lot of people are very sensitive to this, especially at lower brightness. Do we know how bright the display on the Razer? So the Razer Blade base model gets, I think it was 300, I have it here. The Razer Blade 15 model is around 315, 320 nits of brightness. But if you get the 4K version or the 4K touch version, that should be around 400 nits of brightness. If the 300 hertz display on the advanced model is similar to the 300 hertz display on the MSI GS66, you can expect around 300 to 350 nits of brightness. So Razer Blade 13.3 inch release date, I'm not sure. That's the Stealth. That looks like a very interesting laptop. They are they're increasing the TDP that the CPU runs, so you're gonna get better performance. It's also gonna be the first Blade Stealth that comes with a 120 hertz display. So if you can, there'll be a GTX 1650 inside of there, or is it 1650 or 1650 Ti? I forget. One of those two, but they're increasing the TDP for better performance, plus the 120 hertz display. It should be like a killer ultrabook for gamers. Okay, is the new Acer Predator Helios 3 model coming out? So Acer usually has their unveiling event for the Helios in May, but it's canceled this year because of what's going on in the world. So if they announce it in May and they stick to that timeline, it should probably come out in June, maybe July if we're lucky. If things are delayed, don't expect it until August or September. GS66 speakers aren't as good as other laptops. Yeah, they're definitely not as good as other laptops based on the unit I have. But again, this is an engineering sample and things could change. Okay, I'm definitely not answering your question, Daryl. I don't like spam. One person asks, is Windows better than Mac OS at video editing? Not really. It's the same thing. I mean, to be honest, Mac OS does have some advantages because it ties in Intel QuickSync with the GPU and the T2 chip, depending on what you're rendering out. But if you're using DaVinci Resolve, which is another NLE for editing video, you're probably better off going with Windows just because you can actually use NVIDIA cards, and NVIDIA cards obviously produce better graphical performance, which DaVinci actually takes use of. It's something that the Mac can't do as well. Basically, if you're a video editor and you're using Final Cut or Adobe Premiere, the Mac is solid. If you're using DaVinci Resolve and you can get an NVIDIA GPU, you're better off using Windows. Do any of these laptops support 100-watt PDC or power delivery charging? No. None of these laptops on this table. Actually, I'm not sure about the Aero 15. I have to confirm, but none of these laptops do. The Blade 15 Advanced does support it, but only up to 65 watts, not 100 watts. Okay, I think that's it. So before I wrap this up, I want to say one thing. Thank you guys so much for spending some time with me today. Thank you for those of you who donated in the chat. I appreciate it. Thank you for watching some of my videos. Just thank you for being you. Guys, please stay safe. If you're bored, I'll be streaming on Twitch a lot more. I'll be gaming. I'll be playing mostly Overwatch, Call of Duty Warzone, and a couple of Discord peeps are forcing me to play Siege. So if that interests you, you'll see a totally different side of me. Get toxic, get funny. Follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Matt Moniz. You'll find it in the description down below. As always, feel free to follow me on Instagram for some behind the scenes. And of course, if you have any questions that you want to ask me personally or anybody on the channel, hit us up on Discord, discord.gg/Matt Moniz. Head over there. I'm always around. I'm in and out. I'm always there to answer your questions. And even if you need to talk about anything that's not tech related, you're just bored, you're not feeling great, you're not mentally there, we're all here to help you. Okay, this is a beautiful community. Okay, so that wraps it up. Thanks again for coming out. And yeah, I hope to do more live streams like this in the coming weeks with different products. If you enjoyed this and you like this style of live streams, let me know in the comments, because I don't know what you guys like. I don't know what you guys like. So you have to let me know in the comments. If you want anything different, let me know in the comments. So that's it. I'll see you guys in the next video. And this is the awkward moment where I lean over and end the stream.